If you're going to use a private investor, a lender, to work with you on your development, never give them a charge over the property. My name is Ritchie Clapson. I'm a chartered structural engineer and I've been involved in the property industry now for over 40 years. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why you shouldn't let your private investors have a charge over your development property. So why is this so important? Well, first of all, let's examine why this happens. And it happens so much, it's quite surprising. The problem is that you get a private investor. Now, maybe for yourself, that's a challenge in the first instance, but let me assure you, they are out there. Maybe listen to some of our other top secrets here, and we tell you exactly how to go and get one of those. But once you've got a private investor, someone that's willing to invest in your project, generally they're going to be on a loan agreement type arrangement where they're going to get a percentage return for their money. So let's say you had two private investors lending you £50,000 each for 12 months on a 10% return. They're going to lend you £50,000. At the end of that 12 months, you give them back £50,000 plus 5, £55,000. Generally, once you do that, they often want to go again. Maybe they keep their interest and just re-put back in their £50,000. Now, the reality is that should better be done on a simple loan agreement basis. Whatever the percentage you agree, that is their return. Now, of course, a lot of private investors might go, well, hang on a minute, I want a guarantee. Well, if you want a cast iron guarantee, i.e. you want a charge over that property, you ain't getting 10%. That's the reality. You know, if you want security, well, I'm not going to give you 10%. Go and find somewhere else. Go and find someone else that will give you 10, or even if it's 12, whatever the percentage you're giving to those private investors, find someone else that will give you it with certainty with a charge. Because the reality is probably not. Okay? Now, what you've got to do, of course, you've got to have that relationship, you've got to build that trust with them. It's going to be under a personal guarantee, so you will give a personal guarantee that you will pay their money back, but not a charge. A charge is unnecessary. There will, of course, be private investors who want a charge. Well, they're not the private investors you're going to work with. As I say, tell them to toddle on, go and find out where else they can get that type of security. More often than not, you might find they come back to you and they're interested to discuss because you're offering them probably double what they're going to get in the bank, whether that's 10, 11 or 12%, whatever it might be. And the reason you don't want to do this becomes a big problem. And I also get people come to me. So I get a lot of students that turn up on my door, want me to mentor them, want me to guide them going forward, but they've already started the process. That's a real danger. If you want to actually get into development, make sure you know what you're doing before you start. So often they turn up and they say, hey, I've got a development. I'm really not sure what to do next. I've secured some private investors. They've got a charge over the property, but now I've got a problem. What's your problem, I say? Well, my commercial lending, because you can borrow up to 100% from commercial funders, the whole construction development cost, are not happy. Well, they're not going to be. They're not going to be happy because someone else has got a first charge on the property. And if you know how this industry works, the commercial investors need first charge over the property. They probably don't even want your private investors to have a second charge. Now, sometimes they might accept it, but that's got to be approved. They need this ability. They're lending you the biggest chunk of the money, the 100% of the development cost, the money which is always generally at the most risk, in which case they want a charge over the property. That's how the funding model works for property development, for small scale property development. And of course, if you don't know that, as occasionally people come to me and they don't, you set it up wrong. Now, what do you do? Well, you've either got to go and undo that first charge with those private investors, and more often than not, I can imagine they'd probably pull out, or you've got to try and fund the whole thing, perhaps privately. The chance of finding a commercial investor that will take a second charge, pretty non-existent. And of course, that means you're going to get yourself a problem. So if you start from the outset with your private investors and you filter through them, you know, if someone absolutely wants the first charge and they're adamant that's the only way they do it, they're not the right investor for you. And the thing you need to understand, there is an abundance of private money out there. Now, you might not think that, and I know maybe that sounds a bit far-fetched if you're new to this journey, but trust me, there is. There always has been. There's always people willing to invest. And unless suddenly the banks start gaining interest rates of 10, 12, 13, 14% return on your money in your current account, which is unlikely to happen, then it's going to be there for a long time yet. And of course, even if that does happen, we're probably able to even offer more than that as developers, because development returns big profits. So we're able to return big returns for private investors. So it's about clarifying from day one to your private investors, what I'm looking at here is an opportunity for you to get double perhaps what you've got in the bank, and I'm going to give you a personal guarantee. Would I be able to get a first charge? No, sorry, we don't do first charge on the property, because the commercial lenders, when I'm bringing in another 400, 500, 600,000, is going to have first charge. That's how it works. Is it of interest to you? And of course, you're managing those expectations at day one. So bottom line, never give a first charge or even a second charge, or never offer it to those private investors, not until at the very, very least, if at all, you've discussed it with your commercial investor. Does it make sense? Hope it does. As always, please like and subscribe, and you'll never miss another video.